Ooh, this is an exciting day. Today you are going to learn how to add a database to your project. Now I know that's like, oh, what's the big deal? I'll tell you that is a big deal because once you can add a database, you really can design anything. Now that you know HTML, CSS, basic JavaScript, you know how to work with APIs, you know how to make a user sign in, and then you can have a database connected to your application, you really can make anything, right? That's any website just is like log in, save some data. That's it, right? And then like if they log in, the data's there. You can make anything. So this is an exciting day for your education. So today, that's it. We're going to learn how to add a database. Now, what we're going to be adding a database to is this very simple game, the clicker game. We might have already made this. I don't really remember. But the clicker game goes as follows. I'll reload it. You can play a simple version of it. This is what it does right now. So this is out of the box. It lets you click the game. You have 5 seconds to click the button as many times as you can. Press OK, and that's the end of the game. And you can reset it if you want to play again. It says ready, set, go. And you can try again. 41. My top score is 45. See if you can beat that. But that's it. So really, the thing is, this game, if you reload it, no one will ever know that I got that high score of 41, besides the fact that I'm recording it, because there's no data persistence. Data persistence means the data isn't saved anywhere. Once you reload the page, everything restarts, it's gone forever, no one knows. Most video games that you play online are save something, right? They save your high score, they let you, like, other people know what that high score is. We need to add that to this project. We need some data persistence. We want to make it so every time someone plays this game, it saves how many times they click that button. All right, so how are we going to do that? Well, we need to add a database. So how are we going to add a database? The answer is, once again, Firebase. So Google Firebase. And Firebase has a bunch of functions, but the two main ones are it allows you to do authentication, which we learned about in our first two, and it allows you to create databases. All right, and those are like the two great things you could do with it. So we're going to add a new project. We're going to call it Clicker Game Project. Continue here. And you're going to see that to create the database, save data in it, it's very simple. That's step one. It's always like save your data. And the second thing sometimes you want to do is you want to get that data back, right? So you can show it to the user. You want to like save data and you want to get the data back. So saving the data is really easy. Getting the data back, a little bit harder, but still pretty easy. Firebase made so many of these things so simple. So let's continue. And let's start by just setting up our project. You might remember there's a few things that we have to like bring over to our project before we can start using Google's Firebase. So we're going to go here. First, we're going to create this web app. Sorry if that was too quick. We're going to click this web button. We're going to call this Clicker Game. I'm going to register the app. Wait for it. Moves a little slow. And remember, we have to copy and paste all of this right here. Now, this is the Firebase library. This is what lets it use this. Connects the whole, this is the whole Firebase library that we want to use. And this is all the unique data for our personal database, right? So this is what connects our project with this database right here. So we copy all this. Oh, that's too much. And we're going to put it right here where it says to do, add Firebase library below. Let's put that right there. And then you might remember we have to import the specific library that we want. So we're going to go copy and paste this, put it into your browser. All right. And last time we copied this link right here where it says Firebase auth. We're not doing authentication. We're doing Firebase Firestore. That's the database. So you're just going to copy this one line right here. And we're going to bring that right under here where it says add SDKs for Firebase products. Great. And let's format the file so it looks all pretty. Great. Now we haven't done anything. We just once again, we imported the Firebase library so we can use Firebase. And then we gave it all the specific information about our particular database. So every time it wants to send data somewhere, it's like, oh, we're going to send it here, right? This is like the address that it's sending it to. So it knows where to send the data. Great. So that's just the setup. The next part is to actually create, we have to create our database. So all you have to do is go to database right here and go to create database. Now there's two things here, and this is important. You will not have a working product if you don't do this. We're going to start this in test mode. Starting in test mode means that anybody in the whole internet can write data to your database, and they can like get data from your database, and they can delete data from your database. It's very insecure. It's terrible to do this, but it's easy way to start. All right, and our data is not that important anyway. It's just like high scores from a clicker game. That's fine. Who cares? So start in test mode. Okay, done. And this takes a second. They're like, creating a little place to put your data somewhere out there. I always say Idaho. I actually don't know where the servers are, but somewhere there's a computer where they're like opening up a little space for you to save your data into. All right, once it creates it, you will get this screen. Now, the way these databases work or organize is it's very intuitive. There's these things called collections, which are a lot like folders, and there's these things called documents, which you put into the collections. So when it says here, start a collection, it really means like make a folder that you're going to put documents into, in which place where you'll put the data. So we're not going to do it this way, but just to show you how it works, your collection, you call it like users, if you know how to spell users. And the document ID would be like Ben, and it'd be like name, Siegel, whatever, or like user one, who cares? Name, Ben Siegel. All right, we'll save that data. You'll see now I have a collection. That's the folder. That's where all my users are. And my first user is someone with the name of Ben Siegel. Now we don't want this, obviously. We're going to do this programmatically, but that's just the way of thinking of it. That's the schema, right? It's folders and documents that go inside of it. Now for our project, once again, let's just think about how this works. This is how we're going to play our game. We click, right? We're clicking so fast. Come on, 47. Yes, 46. That's my high score. Awesome. So at this point, when the game has ended, right, and I get this alert, after that, I want to take that score, that 46, and I want to save it into the database. All right? I want people to know that 46 happened. So let's look at our project. Where are we going to do that? Now, all of this code in the script.js I've written for you. You should have this all here already. The real things that we're going to be looking at today are these. We're going to save score to database. You'll notice here it says add code to save the score to the database. Nothing's inside that function. And there's another function that should say get high scores. And we're going to have this other function get the data back. So save scores to database, save the scores. That's our first step today. The second one is to get the high scores back. So we're going to get our data that we've saved. So these are really where we're going to be doing most of our coding. Now, like I said, when the game ends, that's when we want to save the data. So right here, when we end the game, that's when we're going to run this function save scores to database. So how do we save the score? This is how do we use this database? It's actually pretty easy. So in Google Firebase Firestore documentation. Right? That's what we're typing in here. And it says get started with Cloud Firestore. Click that. That's the link that you want. Once we're here, we're going to scroll down. And the first thing to do is initialize the Cloud Firestore. All right, we need this line of code right here. It says var db equals firebase.firestore. Copy that. This is where the documentation is. And I can explain this to you. What we're doing is we're making a variable. It says var. I like to change it to let to keep everything consistent. We're creating a variable called db, meaning database, where we're going to just basically have firebase.firestore, which is really, think of this as we're going to save our database as the Firebase database function. This whole function, all the database doings and goings and whatever it does is saved in this variable called database. All right, and it just makes our lives a little bit easier to save it as DB. Now to save data, it's very simple. We go to our database, all right, and then we're going to tell the database which collection do we want to save data in. And the one we want to create, the folder that we want to save the data in is scores, right? We want to put the scores in a folder called scores. You can call this anything, but let's just call it scores. We're going to put it in a folder called scores. The next thing you say is we want to add data, right? So we're going to go to the database. We're going to go to this folder called scores, and we want to add something to it. And you do parentheses and then curly braces. And this is where you put the data that you want to store. Now this data has to be in key value pairs, or otherwise known as an object. So what do we want to save? The key is the score. That's like, remember, that's the name of what we're saving. And what we're going to save here is the user's score, which is saved in this variable up here called count. All right, the count is where the user score is. So we're going to put it as count. And that's it. That's how you save the data. Database.the_collection. Remember, the collection is the folder. .add. And that's it. What data do you want to serve there? So that's great. Now we have this function. Remember, we have to run this function when the game ends. So right here in the function end game, let's just say this, save score to database. So when the game ends, we're going to save it there. And let's see if this works. So right now, nothing in there. Let's see what happens when I click this. Oh, let's rerun this. Okay. Let's see if I can get 46 was my high score last time. Okay, 40. Great. And let's just reset it. This resets the score. Okay, and we can play it again. Okay, yeah, we get it. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's see if anyone can beat one. Oh my god, I'm so slow. Okay, 28. Whatever. So if you looked here, you'd say like, oh man, I must have messed up. There's no data here. Reload this page. And you'll see that, look, we have this folder called scores now, or this collection, and we have 3 documents in it. Now you might be like, what are these crazy letters? To make sure that each document has its own unique name, it just saves some crazy letters so like they don't overlap. Because if there was like 2 documents with the same name, it wouldn't know which one to call. So it just gives it these random names. But you'll see there's 3 documents, each with the different scores we got, 40, 1, and 28. So we save the data. Great. Now you could save more data here. Remember, you just have to add another key value pair. So if you want to do like a name, you can have the user input their name. I could just put my own name here. Watch now when I play the game. Okay, let's see. 37 times. Now this next piece of data, so where it says 37, see now I have my name, Seagull, score. So that's it. So if the more stuff you want to save, remember you just add more things. You could add my age, 28. Sure. And once again, now if I play again, okay, played 34 times, and let's look at my data. You'll see now I have one with all 3 pieces of data here. Great, so we save the data. Now the next part is to get the data back, right? In our clicker game, we want the high scores to show up over here. So let's do that. To get the high scores back, let's just go here. We're going to do this part where it says read data. And where it says read data, I could type this out, but let's just copy and paste this and modify. And I'll explain as we go along. So we're going to, First you need to once again initialize your database. So that's the first line that you put here. And then we're going to database.collection. The collection that we want to get our data from is scores. All right, and we want to get data. That's the key here, right? So we want to do database.collection scores.get. Last time we did add. This one means we want to get data. Once we get the data back, we say .then, and we have this thing called query snapshot. And the query snapshot is what you get back, and that's like all the data. Now, once we get back all the data, we want to use this function called for each, which means go through each piece of data. All right, and then we want to do something to it. Now, for each piece of data, probably want to add that to the screen. We're going to start by console logging the data. The way we're going to do that is we're going to create a variable called letData equal the doc. All right, that's each document. Remember, it's folders and documents. .data, so we want to get the data out of the document, and then we're going to console.log the data. Now, when do we want to get that data? Like, when do we want all that data sent to us? When do we want to save the high scores? We want to do it when we start the game, right? We want to get all those high scores to start the game when they get to the web page. So let's run that function here where it says start timer. So we'll say get high scores. And let's just make sure that we're getting data back. So when we play the game, you should see that before you even look at anything, you see all this data has been console logged already. Awesome. So now that we got the data back, really all we have to do is show it to the user. And I'm going to be kind of weird here, and I'm just going to copy and paste the line of code that we need. But just to quickly explain it, we go to the document, we go to the query selector, we look up something with the ID of high scores, which is right here. This is a list. And what we're going to do is go to the inner HTML, and we're going to add a list item for each one of the scores. And that will, once again, if we look now at our game, so let's try it out. all the scores are now right here. So look, we've saved it. And if